Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming today. This is a talk I did in YAPC-NA in 2008 about SWISH-E, which is a search engine written in C that has a Perl API for it on CPAN. This was before Lucene, before Elasticsearch. So this, I don't even think this project is active anymore. You could still download it and compile it, but it's not the end-all be-all of search engines anymore. So I'm going to cover the basic usage. I mentioned the Perl API. We'll talk about what was expected to be the future development, and that was going to be called SWISH-3, but never actually happened. So what it is it makes flat file indexes for performing full-text searches. The searches are very fast. So it's basically it's a customized flat file database, you could look at it as that. That's optimized for searching. The creation of the database with a reverse index was relatively slow. So assuming you already had an index, and in longer talks I actually show you how to create the index, you basically create a large XML document that describes each document that you want to index. And then you pipe that in with a configuration file, and there'll be a graphic showing that. So in this case, this would be configuration saying I want to index all the things in the HTML's directory, only index things ending with .html, and I'm going to call the index file how2.html.index, and there would be a second file. Well, that's inconvenient. Has it been all this time? Well, I'm glad you guys enjoyed those slides. I swear I tested this, and now my computer's locking up. Ah, here we go. Okay. Let's turn on mirroring, because otherwise I can't see my slides. Okay, one more time. Can you guys see now? Apologies for the mix-up. So again, there's the configuration file. There's an example of how you would create the index based on the configuration file. And you're saying create an index with that configuration file. Here's a pretty picture showing it. You stuff in your HTML files, you stuff in your configuration file, wait a certain amount of time, and out will come an index, which is a pair of files. Here's another pretty picture. You could also use a custom translation program. HTML is often considered, if your file is actually XHTML, then it can be parsed by the XML parser. If it's not, then you have to actually convert it into an XML format. That's what this custom translation program would do. Then you would feed it to SWISH-E with the configuration file, and you get your index. So here's an example of us actually doing a search on a SWISH-E index. We're saying search on that index, give me a maximum of 3 results, and I want to search on the word NFS. Here's an actual result that I got back. It did handle and, or, and parenthetic grouping, which if you've ever been down this road isn't particularly simple. So here's some examples of and, ors, and parenthetic grouping searches. So this last search there would search for documents that mention Gandalf and Frodo or Lord and Rings. You can see where that's going. So there's a Perl API. I think it's still on CPAN. It's just like you'd expect. You can open an index, you can perform searches, you can iterate over results, pull down result sets. You cannot create indexes through the API. You have to do that directly with the C program and configuration files, and maybe your own external program, which is often written in Perl but doesn't have to be. So there were some shortcomings to SWISH-E, which are actually probably a lot of why it never went any farther. It did not handle UTF-8. You could put in UTF-8, and it would look for nulls when it did searches, but then you would lose all the lower casing and all the stemming and all the English things that you could do. So it didn't handle multi-byte characters. There was no way to update indexes. There did become a way of merging indexes, so you could make like a partial index of 1 and a partial index of part 2, and then merge them together at search time, and then replace part 2 if you wanted. And I've actually done that in production environments. And it was not platform independent, which is a real bummer, because if you created an index on one OS that say was big endian, you could not run the index on little endian ones. So Peter Carman was going to write up SWISH-3. He was going to add UTF-8 and multiple backends. I don't think it ever got into Fedora, but it did get into Fink and Debian. Maybe you guys remember Fink. And it doesn't do platform independent indexes. There are 2 papers on this subject, the one that was published with Usenix and one that was in Linux Journal. They're both available at that folder. And for kicks and giggles, this is that folder. And there are a series of documents in there, including the one which was on the Perl Journal article. Excuse me, this was Linux Journal. Thank you.